Hello, welcome to Tea Time. I'm Laura Walsh, and we have two very special guests this evening. Ray Rinaldi from the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition. Hello, Ray.
Hi.
Hi. And Dr. Al Freck from the North New Jersey Regional Tea Party here in New Jersey.
Hello. Good to
welcome.
be here.
Thank you. The topic this evening is sustainability, sustainable New Jersey. Before we get into it, we'd love for Dr. Al Freck to tell us what sustainability is.
Look, sustainability, when you think of it, when most people think of it, they think of clean air, clean water, recycling, et cetera. But really, it's a lot more than that. It really is control.
Really?
Control over where we live, how we live, all those kinds of things, our lifestyle. In fact, one of the fundamental beliefs of sustainability is that private property is a cause of cause of poverty around the world. And that's something people don't hear a lot.
Right.
And so what needs to happen about private property is it needs to be brought under public control.
Oh,
In
that's
other
their
words,
thesis. It should be.
Yep,
No,
that's the
who
thesis.
does this? Who's in charge of sustainability in New Jersey? Because we hear that
Yeah.
right throughout the state.
Yes.
You're in Wayne. We're here in North Jersey as well.
Well, the organization that's the implementer of sustainability, which actually came out of the UN, is the International Council on Local Environmental Issues. That is the implementation arm of sustainability.
Okay.
And so their job is to go into every single town and county and start to implement the different pieces of sustainability,
Okay.
which has to do with where people live, how they live, their energy, all that kind of thing.
Okay.
But it's basically control.
Wow.
It's government control.
Okay, so it's much more than, because we think of it as like this friendly, right, Ray?
Well, it sounds very good. I mean, I want clean air, I want clean water, I want bike paths.
everybody
I mean, it
wants
sounds
that.
great.
Right.
But when you understand, and they'll deny it, but when you understand that it truly is connected to Agenda 21, and they'll say, oh, no. Just for a case in point, I went to a sustainable, they call it all different things. They call it green jobs, green New Jersey, Build One New Jersey.
Right, there's
or
one, Building One New Jersey, and
Jersey.
Together North Jersey.
Right, it's
Forum,
all
which we
these
went to a couple
different
weeks
names.
ago.
Building
but
One
it's-
America, they're all connected.
They're all connected.
Yeah.
And, so I wrote Senator Menendez because I was concerned that it was connected to Agenda 21. And he wrote back to me, and I quote, "As you know, Agenda 21 is a UN initiative to promote environmental sustainability. The principles of the declaration include environmental protection, eradicating poverty, and cooperation between states. I believe that sustainable planning enhances communities and reduces our dependence on foreign sources of energy." So basically, he's connecting the two.
Right.
And I asked the Sustainable New Jersey, I wrote them, and I never got an answer back.
No. Well, what he left out was the process and the strategies to go about eradicating poverty, et cetera. And one of the strategies is redistribution.
Yes.
Redistribution of income, redistribution of tax money, and a whole host of other kinds of strategies which, in essence, take from one person and give to another.
Right.
Exactly, but they don't say that, right? Because we
No.
went to this meeting on September 25th, Ray, myself, Michelle, and Colleen, and it was a large group of people, lovely people. It was held in Teaneck, so people were mostly from Teaneck, and they had public officials there who were members of the school board, or they were council people, and they're talking about building diverse communities. But I live in Englewood, and this was held in Teaneck, and those communities are very diverse, right? And that's why I moved there. I love it. It's like being, in an ideal situation. So they were talking about, but they never mentioned control. They position it differently, right? Do you want to talk about that? Because it was a different sort of.
Basically what they offer money, okay? That's in fact, I think we have a clip later on that
Yes.
it shows how one of these officials said, I'm here for the money. HUD is going to give like, what, $5 million?
Just to these small towns
to
in
these
North
small
Jersey.
towns, and basically, once you take that money, and this is what I think people don't understand, once you take that money, you have to do what they say. So if they say you have to that parcel over there is eminent domain and you have to build whatever it is there. In other words, it takes control from the local government, gives it to the federal government, and you're beholden to them. So it strips away your right as a citizen to this is what they do even with Common Core, okay? It's the federal government. So your local school boards do not have a say anymore,
Right,
okay?
right.
And they lure you in with money.
Right, so that was
and
the
then
first
once
step, the
you,
money.
yes, and it sounds wonderful, or we'll put a bike path here and this, but once you take that money, you are hooked. You're hooked, and you have to do. You have to do what they
It's a
say.
contract,
It
right,
is a
that you
contract.
Yeah.
And you were talking before the show about Westchester.
Yeah, Westchester got themselves into a big hassle, and they got sued by HUD because they had taken some funds, they'd taken some money, and then they were accused of not, quote unquote, affirmatively furthering the Fair Housing Act. And so then they settled. They had to build X number of low-income housings. And after that, they had to do more and more and more and more. And ultimately, they took away their local zoning control.
That's exactly it.
And what you heard at that meeting was things like regionalism, cost shifting,
Yes, those are
Right?
terms we heard. Yep.
and what they're really talking about is, and you've heard affluent suburbs.
Yes.
They're really talking about taking money from the suburbs and giving it to the cities.
Right, it was like Abbott all over again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which didn't work.
Right.
But that's
And that's really what they're talking a lot about, is
Right.
that if you have a community that has a good income, that people have good incomes, the school system is good, the tax base is solid, but it's all, term they used was homogenous, meaning that it's mostly a white community, then that's a problem, and that creates a problem for the cities, and maybe the cause of their problems, because the community is not shouldering the burden of the community, of the city, right?
And that was really the premise of
Yes.
their presentation. Absolutely
Yeah.
right. That's how it was framed.
Yeah.
And they showed us a map.
Yes.
And they showed the northern suburbs, of Allendale and Franklin Lakes, and this entire area. And then they had Union City and Teaneck and areas. And again, they showed the population, and then they based it on school dropout rates. Suburbs versus city, school lunches, free lunches, school versus city versus suburb, and it sort of framed it, and then people of color versus white. And it was a very simplistic argument, because I wanted to stand up and scream. They wouldn't allow us to talk.
Right.
Right.
But, again, I live in Englewood, which is an incredibly diverse area. My neighbor, I'm probably the only one who doesn't have a graduate degree. Everyone in my neighborhood has a graduate degree, PhD, master's degree, and they're African American, they're Latino. So they do very well, and it has nothing to do with the color of someone's skin, right? It's because of their personal, habits and achievements and the character and all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So it was just a very dishonest argument
It was,
to
because
make.
they had that map,
Right.
And they showed the urban areas,
Right.
basically black and Hispanic, the urban areas, and then they had the homogenized, the sprawl,
Right.
the
Right.
whatever. But if they did a map in the early 1900s, those urban areas would have been Irish and Italian.
Exactly.
I mean, and they didn't need any sustainable whatever to
Right.
get these people to get out of their situation. I mean, not that government can help to a degree, but this is really
Social engineering.
social engineering at its worst, and they're taking control, and people aren't aware of it because it sounds so good. You don't want clean air, you don't want clean water for your children, and I know it's like, they're doing a little bit, and then before you know it, you wake up one day and you see your property over there is, nobody can build on it because it's been declared a wetland, or it's very, or you're even down the shore. They're even I don't know if they're doing it, but
They will be.
they're talking about those people that had the homes right on the ocean to declare eminent domain because
They announced that, Ray, this week because the governor wants there's thousands of people who
Well-
refuse to cede their property for eminent
Oh, right.
for the dunes.
Yeah. That's
right.
Taking it.
That's right.
well but this is it. You know, it's all about
So-
control.
Right.
And people have to, nobody wants to be controlled. And it's fundamentally changing our country.
You heard one of the terms that was used is cost shifting.
Yes.
Yes.
Shifting the cost of the cities to the suburbs.
Right.
Okay, and again, this whole idea that the suburbs are not handling their fair share of supporting the cities, that somehow they're getting away with not having to share the burden of the cities. I don't know. A lot of my taxes, I think, go to the cities.
Well,
They do.
and we don't get much back on the dollar
No.
at all.
No, and again, it's
That-
personal choice, right? Many
Yeah.
people choose to live in Union City or in Weehawken because if they're Cuban and they're here from, another country or,
Right.
they want to be with people of their
Just
their
like
own
the Irish and the
community.
Italians
Exactly, the
did
same
way
thing that
back.
everyone
Yeah.
did, right, over history. But it was funny at the meeting, they used the cost shifting and they showed the tax ratables. This is really funny.
was funny.
And so they showed the tax ratables for Teterboro, like at $6 million,
$6.5 million or something.
And so Michelle, God bless her soul, is about this big and stands up and says, "Excuse me, but there's only 12 houses in all of Teterboro, and it's a family. What does this have to do with it, right?"
It's really funny.
And it was really funny, and they kind of threw everything off, right? And then they didn't know, and
Well, he had to admit that there's anomalies in some of the statistics that
it's
they
just
quoted.
well, what makes you wonder what else was wrong
Exactly.
with the presentation.
Exactly, that's what she did.
Yeah.
It
Get
was
up there and
hysterical
you're
because they wouldn't let us talk, right?
Yeah, you
You'd
get
only
up there, and if
click,
you're presented as, here's this high-powered person from Rutgers University,
Yes.
who did all this research,
Oh.
and here it is, blah 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 blah.
This is
and
fact.
then once you come up with that, and it was wafted off as just an anomaly. You're going to have an anomalous kind of things here, there, and there.
Yeah.
Okay, and what else?
Exactly,
What
that's
else?
what happened. Everyone was
It's not
yelling.
quite
It was
right.
funny. So we had the clip. The sound wasn't great for that, but we do have a clip of one of the councilmen for Teaneck, and he really gets to the heart of it on exactly why he was at that meeting, why he thinks it's something sustainable New Jersey is something
Very
that should be
honest.
good. Very honest. It was awesome. So we're going to show you this clip right now.
Our diversity
true.
and not punish.
I came here because I understand there's $5 million being given out for a study. Now, I mean, that's why I'm here. And then I also heard that there was, when they come to some conclusions.
And we're back.
there's
So
gonna
we're
be some
talking about
additional
sustainable-
amounts to go into those towns that were listed and other towns
Okay.
So
to
tell-
help
right,
them
so
with
tell
their
me to
problems.
talk.
I really want to know before we
Okay.
leave, how we can get some of the cash. I mean, that's where I want to go.
You just saw was of a very honest expression by a public servant who said, "Look, I want the money, right?" And so,
Right.
Al, can you talk
Give me the
about how
money.
that works? So, exactly.
Give me the money.
Give me the money.
So, did this happen in Wayne? Was Wayne one of the areas that did they accept money in Wayne, New Jersey? Because I know this is
Well,
accessibility issue
in
is
Wayne,
big
the
there, right?
issue is amending the master plan.
Okay.
And changing commercial, property that's zoned commercial to mixed use.
Okay.
And once you change that to mixed use, first of all, then you won't have any property left really to invite businesses in.
Okay.
And then the issue will be people want to build higher density housing,
Gotcha.
right?
Right, and that's big apartment buildings, right?
There's big, multifamily units, apartment building, whatever. Not high rise, because I don't think you do that. Although you don't know after a
Right,
while
right.
what you'll be, So the question became, is that going to address the ratable or the rateable issues
Okay.
in Wayne? Having lost a number of businesses over the years, will that? And most of us have felt like, if you look at the models, other models of towns, Voorhees, Livingston, Robbinsville, didn't work out for them very well at all to go to higher density housing.
Okay.
And so that's the issue in Wayne right now.
Okay.
Is that was proposed by the administration, the local administration in Wayne.
Okay.
And a group of us are fighting against that because we think we need to put the effort toward bringing business into Wayne, because Wayne is at the crossroads.
Yes.
Route 80,
Yeah.
46, you know.
Yeah, very much
so that's,
so.
that's, but once you do that, once you rezone, every developer and every property owner is going to say, well, I want some of that rezoning too.
Right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Right.
A lot of money, big bucks.
Sure.
Well, that isn't it all about the
Big
money?
bucks.
You
Big
know,
bucks in
and
that.
who suffers but we the people, you know, who...
Well, so many of our communities have lovely character. I mean,
Yes.
tree-lined streets and historic-looking homes, and the homes are all in a similar, style, right, or complementary, and
Right,
it's just
and you have local
enhances-
zoning and
Right.
ordinances that, that's local. So if somebody wants to do, build a building and it's too high, they have to go for a variance. And,
Right,
But
right.
you don't have the government telling you,
That's
you
the big
And your
can't do
neighbor
this.
gets to come to the hearing and say, I don't want that big building
Exactly.
peering over my backyard.
Right.
Thank you very
Right,
much.
but if the
Right?
government, if you take the money and these,
Yeah,
you're
that's a problem.
under their control and they say you have to do this, and you say, well, I don't want to, well, it's too bad. You have to.
Right,
You don't have
right.
any, what's your recourse?
Right.
What is the, you can't go to your town council because the control's out of
They're
their
out of
hands.
it,
They're
right?
out of it.
Right,
So
right.
who do you go to?
Well, you
And
go
who is
to a
this board?
regional commission.
Okay.
Because
Sounds
you
so
heard them
Soviet
talking about
style, doesn't it?
regionalism.
Yeah.
Soviet
And the
style.
whole idea
old Soviet.
is, the whole idea is that if you have a town that is wealthier and you have a town that's less wealthy, you put them together in the same region, and ultimately you come up with a tax-based sharing concept, which is people in the one region, municipalities in the region, throw their tax money into a pot.
Okay.
And the regional commission can then distribute that, and it's going to go to the towns, to the older towns, and maybe older suburbs that are on the periphery of the urban areas. So that's the regional commission. It would take local control completely out of your hands.
Because those aren't elected officials,
Those are
right?
not elected
They're appointed.
officials.
And who would appoint these people?
Well, that's a good question. Who would appoint them? But they would
Is it the
be,
governor?
whoever was appointed, they would be federally subsidized. These would be subsidized bodies.
So we would be paying for them.
We'd
but
be paying
we'd
for
have
them,
no
but we'd have
say.
no control.
And so if
Right,
we wrote them a
exactly.
letter, they wouldn't have to open it.
That's
And if they
right.
opened it, they wouldn't have to read it.
Right.
And if they read it, they wouldn't have to act.
And by the way, I don't know
Right.
if
So-
you remember when although they talked about cities at the meeting, but you heard the leaders got up and talked about metropolitan areas.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because people don't like to talk so much about urban planning and urban and
That brings back the 60s, right?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Get us away from that. We talk about these metropolitan areas
That's
now.
more cliche. That
It's-
has
it's-
a better
More
sound.
socialism.
Yeah, and it gets you into that regional stuff.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, again, we lose the local control.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I believe, and I think there's enough to bear this out, the idea is to actually abolish all local zoning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that sounds like that's what they plan. But
That's
sorry.
the Agenda 21.
We
It's
get that. And I was going to
global.
bring some tin foil tonight because you talk about these people are like, oh,
I know. but
Right.
It's
But
it is.
it is.
If you read their what they want to do, and it's similar. It's
Right.
it's exactly what they're doing.
And
you
if-
know, and people, if people really knew that this was connected to the UN, do you think they'd really go for this?
well, I think it's just flying under the radar because
they
it sounds so
wouldn't-
warm and fuzzy.
I know, but
you know?
if they do their research, there's websites they can go on.
Like Democrats Against Agenda
There you go.
21.com, which is excellent. We'll have that up.
Well, in the Clinton administration, when they first got into this President's Sustainability Council, one of his heads of that council said, look, we can't call this Agenda 21 because
That's
people
right.
will come out and vote against it.
That's right.
And they'll, even
Right.
get some radical congressman that'll say no.
Right.
So we have to use a different term. Let's call it smart growth,
Yep.
comprehensive planning,
Yep.
Sustainable.
sustainable
nice buzzwords.
development, all those kinds of words. So when you have people who have to hide something behind the words, you know something's not quite
not
right.
kosher.
It's,
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
It's an
really-
agenda. It
an
is an
agenda.
agenda.
Yeah.
But
And-
it's embedded in all of these
I know,
regulations, and
I
that's
know.
what gives it this sort
Yep.
of incredible reach because it's EPA and it's education, it's
Yep.
right.
Every federal agency was instructed to establish a sustainable unit within the agency. So you can't escape it.
Right. Right, and that's so it has teeth. And then once there's, in a bureaucracy, if there's a person with a title in a cubicle who works and gets a piece, and processes pieces of paper, right, they don't go away.
That's right.
Presidents come and go, but those bureaucrats last forever.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I mean,
And
the
that's
only
what it
hope is to really people to become informed.
Right, which is what we're trying to do.
That's
Right.
exactly
That's
what we're trying to
do
educate
tonight.
people to, don't take our word for it, but you know
Yeah,
what?
just
Try to
Google.
research it.
Right.
Try to
Right.
look up ICLEI,
Right.
which is the, that's what they call it, ICLEI, the International
Council on Local
on-
Environmental
yeah,
Issues.
yeah.
They
And
changed.
they're-
They
and
tried
they're
to change their name a little bit too.
Right, and they're
they?
they're NGOs, non-governmental organizations.
Right.
And, who are these people?
They got a lot of money.
They get a lot of money. And,
A lot of money.
To spread around, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they go into every town. Now, they have competitions in towns. Now you go into a local community, a municipality, and you can achieve points towards your,
Yes,
gold,
yes.
Well, I
silver,
think
bronze,
Westwood
whatever,
is silver.
platinum. Yeah.
Westwood is they took it. They're like,
gone.
oh wow,
yeah, Englewood is too.
Because you'll get some advantages to other funding.
Yeah.
Will help you out with this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And if you go on that website, Sustainable New Jersey website, you'll see there are certain things that you must do to be certified,
Yes.
and certain options.
yeah.
So again, they frame it.
Yep.
You don't
They
have
frame-
freedom.
Yep.
Right?
No.
At
Yeah.
this meeting, we had clickers, and
Yeah, they wouldn't let us talk or
They
ask
wouldn't let us
questions.
talk, but they had all these questions up there, and
You
you
had
had
10 choices.
Do this, whatever. Which is more important to you? Your environment. Da, 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 da. So basically, it was like Dale Carnegie, and they weren't asking you if you wanted a jacket.
Right.
So to speak.
Right.
They were saying, you're going to get a jacket. Do you want it red or you want it blue?
Right.
And that's
Right.
basically, and then
Right.
you think you're getting a choice, but you're not.
But you're not. It's a false.
Right.
It's a
It's what I
false-
call the illusion of choice.
Exactly, Al.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they also talked about transportation, and I wanted to bring that up a bit because we live near the George Washington Bridge with a toll that is approaching $18 now.
Right, right.
These are the same people,
Yeah.
folks, who
Yeah.
want to decide who lives in your community.
Right, right.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And the whole idea of transportation hubs.
Right. Well, basically, that's what they're doing. I mean, when they raise the toll on the Parkway, they want people not to drive their cars. So it's coercive. They
That's right.
they
It's part of
do this.
sustainability.
It's part of the sustainability. And my thing, all the money that they spent. California has what they call a BART system. Where they have the train running right through the middle of the highway.
Which is awesome.
Right?
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
awesome.
thinking, all the money that you spend, and it would take probably billions of dollars, but the Parkway runs the whole length of the state. Well, why couldn't you have like a BART system running right in the middle of the Parkway, all the way where people would just have to park their cars and get on the train and go wherever they want to go? I mean, with all the money that they're spending on research and just it doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, remember the issue of control.
Yes, that's
To
right.
Exactly.
control how people travel,
That's it.
then you control people.
Wow. This is it. This is it.
Exactly. You don't have the freedom anymore, right? You
That's
can only
right.
get off where that train or bus stops.
And when?
Right? Exactly.
Time,
Exactly. Yeah.
distance,
Exactly.
destination, control where you go. And this, people think you're crazy when you talk about this, but the government at any time can say, well, okay, we're not going to run that route.
It's true.
Yes.
We're not going to run it.
Yep.
Yeah. Or
I
like
think
they're
it's-
doing now. Let's just shut that. We'll
Yeah.
shut that. We're not going to give death benefits to
Right.
the veterans.
Right. You can't get into
the
you can't
parking
into a
job.
hotel that's on a Blue Ridge Parkway in North
Exactly.
Carolina.
You can't look. You can even pull by the side of the road and look at Rushmore.
Right. Right.
Right? I mean,
right.
it's nuts.
It is.
right?
It's sad. It really
That's
is
when
sad.
the
But
government
that's
is out of
government.
control.
Yes.
It's too big. That's what we talk
So
about. Too big.
who's the they say that's the extreme to me when the government has so much power
Right.
that you lose your freedoms. That's the extreme. The government is the extremist.
Exactly.
They're the
Exactly.
ones that want all this power, and they feel that they know what's best for us.
Right. But Ray, they just want equity among everybody.
Well, common ground. Can't we all
equity.
just get
So I
along,
think-
cross
so
the aisle,
They
hold
want like a
hands?
paradise, and I think that didn't work out. Last night I read about it. man screwed that up.
Right?
You know? So, I don't know.
I'll say one thing when people were talking about the cities and they're talking about bringing business back to the cities and building up the cities, that kind of thing. Unless they start to deal with the issue of crime and corruption,
Well, that's just
who's
it.
going to want to settle there?
Right.
Who's going to want to settle?
It has to be safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has to be a safe
Right.
place.
Of
And
course,
they
first and
speak of-
foremost.
And
Yeah.
if it's not safe, and you know, even in Newark, you know, Cory Booker was saying, oh, he brought all these big corporations in, but the poor little business guys, they're out. And the crime rate went from 8% to 14%.
Right.
Well, that was the
That was the
unemployment.
unemployment,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
unemployment,
but
which is devastating.
It is,
to
and the
people.
crime. So who's gonna go there?
Right.
Right.
You know, and the schools, and I mean, it's you know,
Yeah, it's-
people have to just start to get
paying
involved. Yep,
attention.
mhm.
So you want to Google us. You know the groups are Sustainable New Jersey, Democrats Against Agenda 21, Building One New Jersey has a website, and just take a look and start going to some of the meetings, get on their mailing list, and just see if you can start learning about it. And then if it's something that you think is not worthwhile, then you can just start objecting. Right?
Yeah, it's interesting when you go to those websites like Building One New Jersey, like a lot of these groups, their goals look very simple and
they?
And they look lovely.
innocent.
So passive.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very simple and innocent.
Yeah.
But what we've been talking about
It's a wolf
are-
in sheep's clothing.
It is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah,
And it's,
very much so.
Control, redistribution, loss of local control of towns and municipalities. And what I call it killing the suburbs softly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they really want to get rid of the suburbs. They really, and now I'm not talking about people that are at that meeting, but the leadership, Building One America, that's their philosophy.
Yes.
Really, and it's been that way.
Yeah.
You know, the people who have started that, the people who are still strategically thinking about regionalism,
Right.
get rid of the suburbs because they are the enemy of the city.
It's it's hard because that's really big
To get your head
to
around.
wrap your
Yeah,
head around,
it is.
right?
It is.
So for people to start out, and it's true, but we want to get people their
Aware.
feet
Just
right,
to get an
aware.
awareness of what's going
right?
on.
Yeah, because I think if you look at it in the big picture, it just becomes overwhelming. and then
Overwhelming.
you want to pull the
Yeah.
covers up,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if it starts off, with local zoning, and just think about it in real terms. If you want to fix up your home, you could no longer go to the local politicians or local zoning board. You'd have to go to this group,
Right. Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
once
not
HUD gets
elected.
involved, it can happen very quickly. Ask Westchester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're locked in.
Then you're locked in.
That's it.
And I would say to any local municipality, if you're looking for any HUD grants, if they're dangling money in front of you, look for that phrase in there, or look for any other phrase. But the one phrase to look at is affirmatively furthering the Fair Housing Act. Because that can mean anything that HUD wants it to mean.
Oh, that's great. Well, this has been wonderful. We could go on for so much more, but I think we gave people a good taste of what Sustainable New Jersey is all about, and some of the things you may want to look for. You may think it's great, and that's fine, but just make an informed choice, right?
Right.
That's all we're suggesting. So thank you, and we'll be back. Bye.